Hello, I'm Rico Cavaglia, and I want to welcome you to your Ageless Body Self-Care Training. And today's training is entitled Self-Love. You know what? I feel this is the most important of all of our trainings because most of the authors and teachers on this subject say that not having enough love for yourself and for your life is actually the root cause of why we aren't as successful in every aspect of our life. So if this is true, not truly loving yourself and your life is probably the primary reason why you aren't motivated enough to give your physical body the best possible care. And we want you to know that our bodies are meant to be healthy and long-lasting, and that most common health challenges that so many people are dealing with are not natural, and we do not have to accept them as normal. So our goal is to offer you the latest cutting-edge, proven scientific information and strategies that you can trust from some of the top experts in the world, that you can begin using immediately to take the very best possible care of that amazing gift, your physical body. So this is about creating your healthiest, most energetic, best functioning, long-lasting body as possible. So we are very fortunate today to have as our self-love expert, my good friend, Tracy Sage. She is known as the Love Catalyst. She is a relationship coach, a speaker, a retreat leader, and author of the new book, The Missing Manual to Love, Marriage, and Intimacy. So welcome, Tracy.
Thank you. So lovely to be here with you, Rico.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being here to share your knowledge and wisdom with us. So I think it would maybe a good idea that it'd be helpful for our viewers if we did our best to actually define what love actually is. So here's the best definition I've found. You know, I think we commonly first think of love as romantic love, which is a part of it, but we're talking about universal love. So love is the most powerful creative force energy in the universe. Even though it's physically unseen, it is the active, moving, living force in all of life and all of nature. It's actually another name for God. So what is your definition of love, Tracy?
Well, I find, to me, love is a choice. It's really an energy that we can give and receive and that flows through us. So I often have this sense of having like a unlimited flow of love, like a waterfall of love from my heart is how I think of it. And I actually have a centering that I could do with our listeners, if you like, around that.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do that. You know, I like how you said you just feel that love coming. I think it's our natural state. I mean, I think we're created in love and born in love, and also I think that love is something that it's not something that you get. It's something that you become. It's something that it is really our natural state of being in love.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you look at babies when they're born, I mean, they're all about love. They expect to be loved. You know, they're the energy of love, and they expect you to love them no matter what. You know, no matter whether they know.
In many ways, we need to stay like babies when we're first born, right?
Yeah.
Just open and loving and all open for everything, right? So, yeah. So I think the relationship that we have with ourselves is actually the most important relationship that we have. And again, I think I really think that the real concept here is that, you know, lack of loving for ourselves and for our life is really, it's why we struggle in any aspect of our life. So that's the key to a successful life. So tell us, how can you learn to love yourself more?
That's a big question. There's so many ways to learn to love ourselves. You know, I mean, I think of it on many different levels and first we have to recognize the importance of it, which is what you were just talking about, and that it actually loving ourselves is key to being able to receive love from others, because if we don't love ourselves, then we don't let it in. I mean, that's what I've noticed as a relationship coach, is that a lot of times the clients, if they're not feeling love from other people, it's because they're not recognizing it, and they're also not able to let it in. They're not able to receive it. It's sort of like I talk about watering a desert. You know, when you know, it's like when the desert is so dry and barren. If you're dry and barren, if you don't love yourself, then the water just kind of almost is repelled, right? It's like it stays on the surface. It doesn't sink in. And so, you know, that's how it is with love. And so it's really important to love ourselves in order to be able to give love and as well as receive love.
Yeah,
So
well, it just makes sense. If you're not really loving yourself, would you expect anybody else to love you, right?
exactly,
It's kind of
exactly.
logical to me. Well, I know your whole book is really about a lot of different ways to actually love yourself, and we're going to get into some of those exercises. But let's start. I know you have this centering exercise that can help you to really relax and love yourself more. So let's do that. Let's show people how they can do that.
Yeah, so that we all have a waterfall of love. We can get connected with that, because it's what I want to say is that, you know, getting connected with the love that's available to us from all the many sources. And so that's what this centering is about. So sitting up nice and tall, bring your shoulders up towards your ears and back to open your heart, especially toward yourself, and go ahead and close your eyes. And bring your awareness inward, taking this time for you, giving yourself your own full attention, your own loving attention. So at first, simply checking in with yourself without judgment, without needing to change anything. Simply noticing how you feel right now in this moment, physically, emotionally, and energetically. Taking a reading, an assessment. Now bringing your awareness to your breath in your body, aware of the inhale, aware of the exhale, allowing your breath to bring you home to yourself again and again. Aware of the inhale, aware of the exhale, coming home to you. Good, and now bringing your awareness to your heart center, tapping into that bubbling wellspring of love within your own heart, allowing it to bubble up and fill your heart full to overflowing with love. Good, and now connecting in with the Mother Earth. Sending down roots to connect with her in whatever way you do that. And receiving her love and support all the way up through those roots, all the way up into your heart as well. Continuing to fill your heart full to overflowing with love. And last but not least, connecting in with the universe, the wide, expansive universe, the universe that includes you, the universe that says yes to all that you truly desire and are willing to receive. And receiving that universal love and support into your heart as well. Continuing to fill your heart full, to overflowing like a waterfall of love. That waterfall now cascading throughout your body and your being, replenishing each and every cell, all your tissues and organs, boosting your immune system, and replenishing your spirit. And then flowing beyond your body out into the world, sending ripples of love to everyone who needs it. Good, and now bringing your awareness back to this present moment, to your connection with us.
Mm. Tracy, that was so good. I didn't want to come back. I wanted to just stay right there. I was feeling so good. It's so true. I think it's just really allowing yourself to slow down and quiet your mind and just have those thoughts that you were giving us that immediately you just feel better, right? You just feel so good. I felt so peaceful, and I was feeling that universal love. I'm ready to just hang out there for a while, man.
Totally. Well, I encourage you to hang out there all the time. You know, it's like, and doing the centering and doing the practice, it really helps us just to tap into that, and it's always available to us. I start every coaching session with that centering, because you know, when we get connected like that, then everything flows and we can focus on what we really want, and we can heal so much. You know, it boosts our immune system. It's just incredible. It's amazing, and we have we have access to that all the time.
Yeah, just a few minutes of that is like going out for a walk in the forest, out in nature, right?
Yeah,
it feels so good. And I know you have an audio recording of this centering that you give away free on your website, so people can contact you and get that audio from you, right?
Well, it's not on my website, but they can. I will give you the link to get on my text list, and then I'll text it to them.
Yeah. Well, in the PDF that goes with this training, you'll have all the information how you can contact Tracy. Okay.
Maybe I will put it on my website now.
Yeah, maybe you should.
That would be a good thing to do.
Yeah. So I just want to add before we get into some. Well, the next thing we're going to talk about is some of the reasons, you know, why we're not loving ourselves as much, and I just wanted to add that. How you can tell maybe if you're not loving yourself enough is if you're struggling in anything in your life, you know, then you're probably not loving yourself as much as you should. And if you are loving yourself, then you're feeling good, you're excited about your life, you're energized, you're optimistic, and you're feeling compassion for other people, and you're feeling grateful. So, you know, we're all struggling in some degrees and at some aspects of our life, right? So it just always comes back that we got to love ourselves more, and then we can let go of those struggles. So let's talk about some of the main reasons why you think that we have a little trouble loving ourselves as much as we should.
Well, I'd like to highlight what you were saying about, you know, like when you're not feeling good, it does let us, it is like a sign. It's a great, to me, it's like a little flag that says, hey, you know, do you need to give yourself some more attention? Which is really, you know, attention is really like, that's one of the ways that we can give ourselves love. But you were asking about how, why we don't. And one of the reasons I think, Well, I think our culture doesn't really encourage us to, and I think that we learn at an early age that we're not lovable in some way. I think most of us at some point in our as we're growing up as young children, we get the idea that we're not lovable, and I think a few of us are blessed to just know that we are, but most of us receive that message at some point, and it's not true, right? We're all lovable, and
But yeah, I think we're all subject to lots of negative programming that we're not even aware that we were programmed that from a little small child. From years when we're born up to age 6, we're just taking in all kinds of information, and it gets stuck in our subconscious mind. And so we have some negative programming, and so we have to realize that that's what's going on, but that's not the truth, right? And then isn't another one reason that we live in this society that likes to judge everything, compare everything, so we're always comparing ourselves to somebody else. So if we think somebody else is doing better than us, then we think less of ourselves, I guess.
Yeah. And, when we're growing up, the adults that are in our lives, that if they're not loving themselves, then they pass that down. It's like that if we're surrounded, and I think that's where the programming comes. It's not even about us. It's really about the adults that are surrounding us who don't love themselves. And so in that process, they give us the idea that, we're not lovable, and that it's not okay to love ourselves, and I want to say even when we're not feeling good, that it's so important to love ourselves then, especially, kind of like when, you're with a child, and you're around a child, and that they're suffering or they're struggling, you want to give them tender, loving care, right? I mean, anyone we love, we really want to give them, especially if they're not feeling, good, or they're struggling, we give them extra care. And so to turn that on ourselves too, it's like whenever we notice that we're not feeling good, that's when we need it the most. We need to really know that we're loved, and so that's when we need to be tender with ourselves.
What that reminds me, I think I told you that story that there's this African tribe. I don't remember the name. It's a remote African tribe, and I'm not sure that they still have that same community. But the story goes was that in their community, whenever anybody committed what we would call a crime, or did something bad to somebody else, instead of punishing them and like put them in jail and say how bad they were, they realized that the only reason that people do something like that is because they're feeling unloved. And so they would take them out and put them in the center of town, and all the people would come around and surround them and start telling them, how much what they did love about him and what was good about him, and they loved him. And he said every time the person would break down, and they would just, that's what they were really lacking, was a feeling of love for themselves and feeling that anybody cared for them. And they said that they never had one person go back and do what they did before. So instead of like we always
love that story.
We got to punish people for doing stuff. Instead, we need to give them some love. That's what they're looking for, really.
Absolutely, I agree.
Right? Yeah.
I agree. That's what I'd like to see instead of prisons. I'd like to see, I'd like to see us doing that really. It works with children too. When a child is acting out, that's how I deal with them. Is instead of punishing them, I engage them and give them a sense of that they're worthy and valuable and lovable. And so, I gather them up and get them to help me with something so they can feel good about themselves. And also, I trust them and, with something. And so then they feel, appreciated. It's like, oh, you have this skill, come help me. It's like, I know you'll be a great help. And then they feel better immediately, and they stop acting out. Cause it's a cry for attention,
Absolutely,
loving attention. We all need it.
We all need it, that's for sure. So let's just talk a little bit about fear, because I think fear is really the obstacle that gets in the way of loving ourselves. All these negative thoughts that we have are really all fear-based.
Absolutely.
Talk a bit about that.
Yeah, fear is fantasize experiences appearing real, you know, it's yeah, being afraid really takes us out of the present moment. It's afraid of something that hasn't even happened yet. You know, it's like we're often afraid of, and one of our biggest fears is fear of rejection, right? And rejection is part of life. And we're afraid of it because we're afraid of not being loved. You know, it keeps coming back to this childhood wound of, you know, feeling unlovable, you know, which, you know, most of us have it somehow. And so I do think fear really, really comes from that place. And it's yeah, the main obstacle to love, the main obstacle in life, you know. And it is like, I know in the Course in Miracles, they talk about, you know, it's like the fear is the opposite of love. And I would agree with that.
Yeah. I think really there's, you know, almost all the emotions that we experience, you know, sadness and loneliness and regret and all these things are really just being fearful of something that we're getting not what we need, which is really mostly love, right? And
Right.
love is just the opposite. You know, love is feeling, you know, all the positive things we can think of. You know, feeling grateful, feeling joyful. You know, feeling excited about our life. You know, so at any one moment, you know, we can see, are we in fear or are we in love? You know, are we feeling great about our life, or we're allowing all these things that we're just making up in our mind to control how we're feeling, right? So
Right.
I have a friend that he always ends his, when he gives a talk or whatever he does, he says, so stay in love because that's where God is, you know. So that's where you want to try and stay in love as much as you can. Yeah.
Well, and you know, the fear will stop our energy. I mean, you think about when we're afraid, we hold our breath, you know, we you know, or we freeze, right? It really stops the flow. And I think of love as a flow, you know, that waterfall of love, right? It's a flow. It's a flow of energy. And when we go into fear, we stop the flow. And so we actually shut it down, and we shut down the receiving and the giving. And so, yeah, absolutely. And we stop feeling that flow. So for me, the really, it's all about keeping the flow going. And in fact, in my book, I have a chapter, it's called Your First Love is You. And it's all about keeping that flow of love going in your life, like to really keep yourself in the flow, you know.
Yeah. I think the most important relationship that we have is with ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I saw this thing that somebody wrote here, some of the things that you need to give up that are tied to loving yourself. And you know, it's things like just criticizing yourself and feeling lack and having regrets and worrying and complaining. We need to give up all those things. Yeah.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
Our thoughts are really, really, like, we have control over our thoughts. We can, you know, it's choosing better thoughts is a great way to choose, you know, to shift how we feel. So that's one of the things that we can do, is to really pay attention to what thoughts take us to those places of feeling unloved. And so, you know, and what you were saying, it's like, you know, if we're thinking in terms of lack, if we're thinking, you know, if we have a thought that we tell ourselves that, you know, something terrible is going to happen, you know, those fears, you know, it's like, then yeah, we'll feel terrible, you know. So that's what puts us into yeah, the unhappy places, is really our thoughts.
It's like you said, we always have a choice. We can choose what we're thinking, what we're believing, what we're feeling. We have a choice, right?
Yeah. And so we have to choose that again and again. We have to choose love again and again, and choose loving thoughts again and again. And then we'll feel it. Then we stay in that flow.
And stay in love. Okay, so before we get into some actual exercises that can help you love yourself more, one more thing I think we can go over a little bit is what are some really the main reasons to love yourself more? What would you say?
The main reason to love yourself more is because you're going to feel good.
I think that's the best one of all. Yeah, there's lots of other things we could say, but yeah, because we're feeling beings, and what we really want to do, we want to feel good, both mentally and physically, right?
Yeah, I mean that's
That's,
really,
that should be our number one goal, I think, to feel
yes,
good.
absolutely, feel good. I made a commitment to myself when I was in my 20s, um, that I would do whatever it takes to feel fabulous every day.
Uh,
And that's actually how I discovered self-love practices, is because that's what worked. That's what helped me to feel fabulous every day, was really, yeah.
but I think most all religions and people have some uh, understanding or some belief in some sort of a God or creator, and it's all about it's a loving creator. So I think we were created out of love, and we were created by a loving creator. So I think if you're not loving yourself, you're actually kind of turning your back on your creator. You're kind of rejecting what the creator did, is as if you know better than the creator, right? So you're created in love, and so then you should feel lovable, right? That
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, totally. And I mean, I think of all things, like when I'm in nature and I look at nature, and like when you look at a flower, for instance, or you look at the how plants grow in nature, it has that love energy. It's filled with vitality. I mean, life energy is love. I mean, that's really, I experience it as love. And
Yeah,
so there's so many ways to experience that. Or a river or a creek. I mean, it's like that life energy that it's yeah.
yeah, I think so. I think so. I think flowers are like nature's way of expressing love. And for when you just look at a flower and you just go, wow, it just makes you feel good and just expresses love all the time. So and also, our life's all about vibration. Everything's a vibration, and the higher we can raise our vibration is how we can really manifest what we want in our life. So I think the number one way to raise your vibration is by loving yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And also, I was just going to say, love your body, not for the way it looks, but for what it does for you, what it enables you to do. That's how you can love yourself, and get off be so concerned about how we look. But love your body for what it does for you.
Totally. Totally. One of the
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, one of the exercises that I do is about,
Yeah, let's do that.
appreciation. And so, just to do daily appreciations, and we can, it's similar to a gratitude practice, but it's more about appreciation, which, I think, again, it's like if you have this idea that you're unlovable, and you have a low self-confidence, appreciation really goes a long way. And to give yourself that appreciation is great. So I often give this to my clients, and I do it myself too. I've done it for periods to really, when I need a boost, when I'm feeling not so good about myself, or insecure, or anything. If I'm feeling down, I just start to appreciate myself. In fact, I guess I still do it. I do it automatically now. So at the end of the day, when I'm going to bed, I stop and I take a moment to appreciate myself, to appreciate my body, to appreciate what I've accomplished that day, what was good about that day. But definitely the piece that I think a lot of people don't do is to take a moment to appreciate ourselves, just appreciate. It's like, wow, I showed up really fully, today, and this is where I did that, and this is what I appreciate. Or I really expressed these qualities that I admire today. Or I appreciate my body for how my body got me through this day, and how hard my body worked. Or that my heart is still beating, and my lungs are still breathing, whatever it is. I think that the taking time to appreciate ourselves is really, really important.
Yeah, I think it's like that. If if you're not feeling a lot of love for your body or for your life, if you just take the time to do that list, write down all the things that you do love about your life and your body, and then make a list of what you don't like, and I'm pretty sure the list that you do what you love about your life, but it's going to be a lot longer if you take the time to really think about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's the next exercise that you have people do?
Well, we talked about attention, and I think that's one of the first ones that I have in my book, is about giving ourselves loving attention. And in the book, I go through it, and where you really do the exercise of really loving yourself the way you would love a dear one. And really, I talk to myself. I talk to myself all the time, and I give myself little pep talks, but I also, encourage myself. And I also give myself attention. So if I'm not feeling great in a moment, then I check in with myself. What's going on? And I talk to myself. What's going on, Tracy Sage? What do you, how are you feeling? And I'll tune in, and I'll tune into my body and where I'm feeling it. And giving ourselves attention like that is and I'll look in the mirror and I'll talk to myself. I tell myself I love myself in the mirror, and I just talk to myself the way I would talk to a dear one. And sometimes it's happy conversations, or sometimes it's a nurturing myself. But it's all about giving myself my own attention, really tuning in to how I feel and what's going on with me, and what I'm thinking and what I'm wanting, and all of that.
So really, all these exercises that we can do is really just about slowing down for a moment, and just like you said, like we did the centering exercise, just to slow down and really drop in to your real self, and then I think you'll begin to have a lot more feelings, and you'll begin to realize that all these things of not loving yourself, you're just making them up. It's just, what I like to call it. How there's so much information out these days to talk about the fake news on TV.
Yeah.
I think the real fake news that we have to watch out for is all those thoughts and stories that are going through our mind all the time about, why things are the way they are, and why we can't do this, and what our limitations are. That's the real fake news we got to watch out for, right?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And it's constant. And that's why I said, our thoughts, it's like to pay attention to our thoughts. So giving attention to where our thoughts are going, and what we're telling ourselves, and especially like a lot of times if we're feeling sad, or we're feeling angry, or we're feeling upset, whatever it is, it's because we're responding to a thought.
Yeah.
And so to just find out, what thought am I telling myself right now? What is that thought? And changing that thought is a huge shift. And it's in my book, I give a lot of questions. And so I often shift thoughts by asking questions, by asking powerful questions, so that I'm shifting my mind all the time by asking a question. So, when, like, for example, if we're focused on what's wrong with something, with a situation, with what's wrong in our lives or whatever, and we're really focused on something that we feel is wrong. And so, a question that I ask all the time is, what's good about this? So for example, in this situation with, staying at home, and for me, or, something that, a pandemic, it's like, I'm like, what's good about this? What are the blessings? And if we stop to ask that question, there are lots. And so we have to focus our mind toward what is helpful to us, and what serves us, and what is loving. And so when we ask the question, what's good about this, we can go there.
Yeah, and that applies to everything. All the things that we begin to think about something's not good, or we're unhappy about. If you just stop and ask that question, I think that's probably the number one thing that we should all be doing on a daily basis. Anytime you start to get upset or unhappy or feeling not good, just stop and ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? And How is it serving me? And what is really the good of this? Is it, well, I think that's probably, we'd say that's the number one thing that everybody should begin doing on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes, we have resistance to it. So I'll say, what's good about this that I'm not seeing? What's, yeah.
And
'Cause
almost
there's
always, if we do that, it'll come to us if we just slow down a little bit and think about it, right?
Right. And I like what you said. I mean, most of the exercises in this chapter are about slowing down and that's, and giving ourselves our own attention. It really keeps coming back to that. It's like, that's what we do, is when we love someone, we give them our attention. And so giving ourselves our attention, and it's not something that we're taught, we don't get that. And so there's many ways.
So I think we'll end with we'll give them that exercise of what we recently learned called the heart-brain coherence. It's a way to really to give yourself some love. It's really quite powerful. So think about, there's a company or really it's an institution in Northern California. It's called the Heart Math Institute. Yeah, if you really want to learn more about that, it's so important. You can just Google heart math and you'll find all about it. But what they found was they were able to, with the latest machines, they can hook up to your body, to your heart, and to your brain. And what they found was that the heart is much more electromagnetically active than the brain is. And so the heart is actually sending, they say, up to 5,000 more times as many electromagnetic frequencies and messages to the brain as the brain is to the heart. So, we always knew through just intuitively that about the heart, right? How the heart, our heart center and our, our heart space and all these things. So our heart really is the most important thing in our body. Mm-hmm. So what they found was when they hooked up and were measuring all these electromagnetic frequencies that were coming from the heart to the brain, and they hook up in the brain so they could actually see the wave patterns in the brain. And what they found was they did different experiments, and they'd have people that were hooked up to think, different thoughts and feelings. And so whenever they would be having any kind of feeling, any kind of a negative, what we call negative feeling, like you're angry or you're anxious or you're nervous or you're fearful or you're having regrets or you're complaining, it sends these frequencies, those kind of frequencies, to the brain, and it creates real erratic brain waves. It's all real erratic. And so then that's the message that your brain is sending to your body. And so then your body is releasing these chemicals like cortisol and creating stress in your body. And so we know now too that most health challenges and illness in the body are manifested initially by what initially comes from our mental emotional state. Is what manifests in our physical body. So then they found, though, that the two main thoughts and feelings that you want to focus on is gratitude and compassion. So when you're having thoughts of gratitude, it just slows your brain waves down and it creates really beautiful synchronized waves. And so then that's the message that your brain is sending to your body to produce the chemicals that are going to create healing and relaxation in your body. So cool, isn't it? How science has proven all these things that, like, the yogis already knew, right?
Yeah.
Intuitively, so it's so cool. So this is a little exercise that you can do throughout your day, and I'm trying to do it every day. So let's do it together. Just take a couple minutes here. So put your hand on your heart, because whatever you touch on your body, that's where your mind goes. That's what your attention goes to. So put your hand on your heart, close your eyes, and first of all, I like to add to it, just give your heart some love. Think about your heart. Your heart beats continually, just keeps going, just keeps beating, keeping you alive. If you live to be 80, and if you're, just say a normal person, say your heart rate beats around 70 beats per minute, your heart's going to beat continually over 30 billion times. Just keeps going. So think about that. Give your heart some love. Say, thank you, heart. Thank you, heart. Okay, so take a couple nice deep breaths. So we're in our heart space, we're loving our heart. And now just think of something that you're truly grateful for. It can be your life, it can be your family, it can be what you're learning, it can be whatever you're truly grateful for. Just think about that for a little bit. Give it some thoughts and really express your feelings of gratitude. And what also this does when you're in the feeling of gratitude, it actually elevates your mood. So you can't be unhappy or when you're feeling grateful. So gratitude is a great trait to focus on throughout your day. So just we take just a couple minutes and just focus on gratitude. And again, what this is doing, this is sending nice, peaceful, loving electromagnetic frequencies, messages to your brain. And in turn, now our brain is relaxing and our brain is sending these messages to our hormonal system. And so our body is secreting the chemicals that are going to make our body relax and be in the receiving to heal itself. So this is something that I really recommend that you do. I always try and start my day off like this. Just give your heart some love and send the message of gratitude to your brain. That's pretty cool. They came up with it, didn't it?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It's wonderful. You know, gratitude practice is one of my go-to practices. It's one of the main practices that I use and that I give to all my clients. And I use it when I'm driving, or, you know, I practice it when I'm driving a lot. So if I'm driving on a road trip, for instance, I'll do gratitude practice for hours, you know, along the drive. And I just keep saying out loud, you know, what I'm grateful for. If I'm driving alone, I'm saying it out loud. Sometimes if I'm driving with someone, we will go back and forth, and it's like, I'm grateful for this, you know, I'm grateful for that, you know, and then, and I just keep thinking about what I'm grateful for. And by the time I get to where I'm going, I'm such a high vibration that everyone's always happy to see me.
Yeah, I think that's the best way, again, to raise, loving yourself and being grateful is raising your vibration. And again, the higher vibration, the healthier you're going to be, the happier you're going to be. And then you can manifest whatever you want. That's all about, isn't it? That's so cool. Amazing. That's so good, Tracy.
It's a very simple, powerful practice. And the other one that I do is forgiveness practice. Mm-hmm. And that one is it's another very loving practice. And I always start, the forgiveness practice always starts with forgiving yourself.
Well, I think that's definitely about loving yourself, isn't it? Forgiving yourself, that's loving yourself, right?
Yeah, forgiving yourself for anything, you know, we hold against ourselves, you know. And, you know, we've all made mistakes in our lives, and so we can forgive ourselves for mistakes. But sometimes we judge ourselves, or we make ourselves wrong, or we have all sorts of ideas about ourselves, and we just need to forgive ourselves all those things, you know, anything that we hold against ourselves and others, you know. And so that's what the forgiveness practice it really is. It's, you know, I always say, start by giving yourself forgiveness, and then move on to anybody else that you're holding anything against. And it sets us free. When we forgive, we can feel, we can let go of holding on to negativity, whatever it is, you know. And it's not to say that, you know, that when we forgive ourselves or anyone else, that we didn't make a mistake. It's like, oh yeah, we all make mistakes, we're human. And it's not to say that we didn't do something that you know, that it's not to say that we condone what we did or what someone else did. It's just to say that we're forgiving it and we're letting it go now. And that is so healing, so powerful. Yeah. Well
said. Okay, so I think the last thing here I want to say, and then I have a question for you. One more question for you is, I think self-love is a journey. It takes dedication, devotion, and takes practice. And we all need to do our best to stay in love and to be out of fear. And so resolve to love yourself each and every day and watch yourself blossom and your greatest life can unfold. So both Tracy and I, we want to urge you to remember that knowledge without action is useless, right? So you've got to act on what you've learned today. So I always like to ask all the experts, if you have any ideas, that can help people to actually give them a little push so they'll actually do some of these things that we just talked about?
For me, it's making the commitment. And so I told you I made a commitment when I was about 20. I made a commitment to do whatever it takes to feel fabulous every day. And so that commitment is, and I recommit to it all the time. But that's what a commitment is not something you do just once, because you'll forget or but to keep coming back to your commitment. So whatever your commitment is to focus on what makes you happy, to whatever it is, make the commitment. And so in the case of loving yourself, it's like commit to loving yourself, commit to doing one practice a day, start with that, and then commit to doing 2 practices a day, and then commit to doing it throughout the day, so but commit to something, make a commitment, whatever you want to commit to now, and then recommit when you find yourself, when you realize, oh, I stopped doing that, I stopped, I'm not doing it anymore, then recommit. So I find that helps a lot, and when we commit, to say our commitment out loud, and also to write it, and also to share it with someone else. It's like share it with someone who can hold you accountable.
That's so good. And so the more you do that, like Tracy said, then you can be like Tracy. You can just sit there and just let the waterfall of love bubble over, right?
Yes.
That's so good. So I just want to say that I think it's so important. The more you love yourself, the better your life becomes. And we need everybody to love themselves more and to help to create a much healthier and peaceful and just world for all of us. We can choose to do that, and it's something that I know that we all desire, and we can do that. So, Tracy, thank you so much. That was so good. And again, I just want to tell people that you just got to take some action and do this. And so I'm pretty confident that the more you love yourself, the better your life becomes, right?
And the better the world becomes.
And the better the world becomes. So love yourself as if your life depends on it, because it does.
It does.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, dear.